right, so first play we're going to look at, 2nd and 2, one of the Patriots' first offensive plays.
What's going on, everyone? Mike Kadlick and Taylor Kyles here for CLNS Media, back with another episode, a live episode of the Patriots Daily Podcast today, powered by our friends at PrizePicks and Monarch. We'll talk about them later, but first, Taylor, we have to kick things off breaking down the Patriots' 20-13 loss to the Las Vegas Raiders last night. We have a jam-packed night here on Patriots CLNS. We are starting here at 6 o'clock, followed by our friends Alex and Brian on Pat Speed after that. And then a little late night action, late night for Giardi and Callahan because they're old men. An 8:30 p.m. start time for Giardi and Callahan, breaking it down as well. So stay tuned through all of it. But we'll start with us here at 6 p.m. Again, Taylor and I are going to break down the 20-13 loss to the Raiders on Sunday. A strong first half for the Pats. They go into the second half actually up 10-7, but second half was really bad, as we know. Mike Vrabel said it today, and it's something that Vrabel stressed throughout the offseason and into this last week as well, where I know Reese mentioned it a couple times, but they kind of structured practice where they would take a halftime and make sure they still finish strong throughout the week. But unfortunately, didn't work out here as they lose 20-13. I thought themes in general, the offense only scoring 13 points was a struggle. And then the defense allowing Geno Smith to kind of pass all over them. So
again, which, we were worried about, and everybody always craps on Geno when he's a much better player than people give him credit for. And yesterday was a great example of why I did not want him in the game late.
Exactly. So what we're going to do here is break it all down with 3 reasons for optimism on the Patriots, because that's what we like to do here on Patriots Daily. And also 3 ways the Patriots can improve heading into their Week 2 matchup against the Miami Dolphins. But first, we are going to start with Drake Maye and the good and the bad and the ugly from the second-year quarterback's first start of this second season. The nitty-gritty, 30 for 46 passing, 286 yards, a touchdown, an interception. Was shaky overall, kind of an up-and-down roller coaster, as we talked about last night on Patriots postgame. And even Mike Vrabel said today that he was asked if there was potentially too much on Drake's plate. And he said it's something they're going to look into, and they want to put their best players in their best position to make the best plays, and yada, yada, yada. But I thought it was noteworthy. It was. He kind of gave
he's not wrong. He's not wrong.
He gave his coach speak at the end, but realistically, he left it open that maybe there is too much going on with Drake. So, Taylor, I will hand it over to you as far as we'll start with the bad on Drake Maye, and then we'll talk about what went good after that. But what'd you see from Maye on Sunday? What can he improve, and why was this not his best performance to open up this season?
So when I looked at PFF stats, and I kind of use that to frame a lot of my arguments because I think it's easier. A lot of people have access to it, and it just kind of furthers the conversation of why, for example, Drake Maye's numbers and his passer rating, about what you would expect in terms of like he's bad when he's under pressure and he's bad when he's blitzed. But it was like a very significant disparity. When he was clean, he had 100.4 passer rating. Under pressure, that plummeted to 43.5. When he wasn't blitzed, he actually had a 68.5 passer rating when he wasn't blitzed. When he was blitzed, he had 108.3. That was 9 for 14, 97 yards, and a touchdown. When he wasn't blitzed, 21 for 32, 190 yards, and an interception. So it was, it was a lot of really funky statistics. And I'm like, all right, let me just dive in and get my own idea. This is one where I don't think that pressure and blitz numbers really do it a whole lot of justice. Because for me, I thought it was just an execution thing for Drake Maye. It was inaccuracy, and I thought it was poor decision-making where too many times he put himself in positions to take hits or just didn't let the ball go, which we talked about in our preview, didn't let the ball go at advantageous times. So in my notes for inaccuracy, I had him with 4 high throws. 2 of those were under pressure. 2 of them were from clean pockets. There was the out to Demario Douglas on 3rd down. There was the Demario Douglas crossing route in the red zone that he sailed. That one was under pressure. Morgan Moses and Mike Nwenu gave up a twist. I actually spoke to Morgan Moses about that today, and he said that they gave it up, but then he and Mike Nwenu got in the huddle, talked about it, and the next snap, they tried it again on the touchdown, and they actually picked it up. So I thought that was pretty cool. But also the Stephon Diggs on a dig route, that was another one where he got hit. That was another twist that got through. I understand he took a big hit on that, but that ball came out very high. And even Drake, I wasn't sure exactly how he meant it based on the phrasing, but I think he might have admitted that the ball came out high and the hit might have also affected it. So I was a little iffy on that one.
Yeah, he threw that in at the end there, Taylor, when he was talking about the interception. He was like, yeah, a little bit high. And then he kind of said that he got hit, but I feel like he didn't fully say that he actually got hit, but just that there was a guy in his face and that it kind of got in the way.
Right. So that one was a little iffy to me. And then there was also the Hunter Henry sit route, where obviously he's wide open and Drake throws it high. It pops up in the air. And I'm very lucky that one wasn't intercepted. So 4 high throws. I also had him with 4 throws to the wrong shoulder. These are ones that can slide under the radar, but they are significant because in this Josh McDaniels offense, and we can maybe talk about this later and whether or not it's a great fit for Drake Maye, at this given time, it's all about putting the ball on the right shoulder to set your guys up for yards after the catch, of which the Patriots got very few last night. And those throws to the wrong shoulder, there was a curl to Kayshon Boutte. That was kind of late where he was on the outside. The defender was on the inside and Drake threw it to the inside. Defender popped it up in the air. They're on the sideline. But again, there's so many passes that he threw wound up getting popped up. There was the Austin Hooper crosser off the bootleg where people are going to say he's on the move. It's not that big of a deal, but it is because if Austin Hooper is able to catch that with his forward momentum, he might score a touchdown. Instead, it allowed a defender to catch up to him and tackle him, and he wasn't able to get many yards after the catch there. Also, the Ramondre Stevenson check down where Drake Maye was trying to slide away from pressure and flicked it, and it was behind Ramondre. If you complete that pass, Ramondre easily gets the first down, and it might be even more. So those are when Mike Vrabel talks about the shit that gets you beat, those missed opportunities are big. The Patriots got the 4th down on the one that was behind Stephon Diggs on 3rd down. But what if they don't get it, right? You're looking back and saying we should have just gotten the yards when we could have. So that was 8 throws I had that were inaccurate that were led to missed opportunities. I also had 3 what the hell throws where I don't really know what he was thinking or what happened. There was a crossing route to Hunter Henry where I think Stephon Diggs ran a curl. They were really close together. I don't know if he was trying to suck up coverage and get Hunter open behind him. Either way, it was a funky window and Drake just threw high, but he threw high and it almost got intercepted. The safety dove for it, but he couldn't get there. There was a seam route where I think Drake was trying to put it to Hunter's back shoulder the way he had earlier, but the leverage was different where the linebacker was over. I think he was behind, actually. Henry had a step, so I thought he was going to lead him. Instead, it's high and outside. It's weird when it's downfield because you don't know exactly where the ball was relative to the receiver, but I just wasn't sure if they were on the right page there or if it was the smart kind of throw to make. And the Mac Hollins curl, I don't know if that was on Drake or not because it was an anticipation throw. And I usually give quarterbacks some leeway when they have those because you're trying to get it out before the pass rush can get there. Hollins also might have gotten out of his route late because I think he slipped at the top. So I wasn't sure who exactly was at fault there. I just thought it was notable. But again, so that's 8 throws that were higher to the wrong shoulder, 3 where I genuinely didn't know what exactly happened or why it was wrong. So inaccuracy was a big problem. And then there was the decision-making. He was nearly strip sacked by Max Crosby on a scramble where it's just dude, throw it away. And the window he threw into didn't look like a good one because there was a defender to the sideline. He kind of threw just inside the boundary, but there was a defender looking at him. So if he'd gotten it off, there's also a chance it might have gotten intercepted. So I didn't love that decision. The missed read at the beginning to Stephon Diggs on a sit route, obviously, started on a bad note, just like he said. He'd like to get that first down. And not only that, but Kayshon Boutte was coming in behind him, and Drake was in a clean pocket. So it felt like he was just kind of a little – I know he said he wasn't amped, but that feels like –
he was amped. He's always amped.
Feels like your head's kind of racing there.
Sure.
Scrambled away from the play flow for a minimal gain. This was on a play action where he had one guy breaking inside, another breaking towards the sideline on an intermediate route. And Ramondre took a second to leak out, but everything was going right. And it wasn't a bad pocket, but Drake kind of took off left. And then everybody caught up to it. And I'm thinking if you at least go right, you force conflict because, all right, do you defend Ramondre? Do you defend me? Maybe you suck up coverage and you can create a window. It just going left kind of took away any chance he had of continuing to be a passer. Didn't love that one. He was sacked on that blown screen where I appreciate him trying to make something out of nothing because there was kind of a defender there. He might have been able to throw it, but I don't think it probably would have gotten stopped for a loss. He reverses field, and then Max Crosby, like a freaking demon out of hell, chases him down. And it's just kind of the awareness of knowing, like, this is Max Crosby. You really need to be careful. Crosby didn't hit him, but he kind of grabbed him as he was going out of bounds, and Drake falls down. Which, like, you don't need to do that. Just throw the ball away. You don't need to take any of those hits because it's a 2-yard gain. It's just not worth it. Also, Crosby's a dirty little MFer. There was a couple of, like, what he'll do is he makes you feel his presence, and a lot of great pass rushers do this. They'll win, and then, like, if you get the ball off, they'll just hug you.
He toes the line. Yep.
Dietrich did it all the time. And there was one where he kind of, like, didn't launch himself, but Drake clearly got it out, and he, like, hit him a little bit in the chest and then wrapped. And Drake doesn't flinch, to his credit. Like, when he gets hit, he really doesn't seem to notice. I'll give him that. But again, you don't need to take these hits. And then he also had the delay of game on 3rd and 12 in the red zone. Unacceptable. He said he didn't get the back in time. Like, you just got to get that done faster. So just plays where it felt like, one, he could have thrown the ball, but also just holding on to it, especially against, again, Max Crosby. Like, this was one of our biggest notes. Get the ball out, because he is going to chase you down and he is going to hit you. He's just too big and fast. So the accuracy's got to get fixed. And there were also, we'll get into some positives, there were times where he's doing it, right? Where he's following through, he's navigating the pocket, inching up, and then letting the ball go, and it's perfect. You see the potential. It's the consistency that's got to improve. So I want to see that more. Some connection things, maybe chemistry, that'll get figured out. But also just, dude, throw the ball away. It's fine. Brady did it all the time, and obviously he had to because he couldn't run. And I do want to give Drake some leeway because this is a learning experience, right? The same way he's learning not to put the ball in harm's way, the way that Josh and Mike Vrabel want him to, you also need to understand where, you know what, let me just throw the ball away because there's no way I'm getting more than 2 or 3 yards on first down. And sometimes 2nd and 10 is better than 2nd and 7, and my ribs kind of hurt a little bit. It's not worth it. So those things add up. And those are the negatives. Just the accuracy and the decision-making have got to improve.
Yeah, the wrong shoulder stuff is interesting to me too, because like that play where he hit Henry on the I forget who was in coverage, but he hit Henry on the correct back shoulder away from the safety, perfect throw, kind of towards the ground, and he goes down, makes a nice catch for a first down. That was a good one. But then you think back to like last season, there was the play on the goal line where he hit Hooper on the wrong shoulder. The ball gets popped up and it's intercepted. You want to give that guy the ability to either get upfield or turn into the end zone for a touchdown instead of going the opposite way to the, into the defender. So that is definitely something to keep an eye on. And then the Crosby thing I thought was interesting too, because he is that kind of guy who just, and like you said, it's not specific to Crosby, but these pass rushers, they want to intimidate you. They want you to know I'm here and I'm going to be here. Him and, I want to say it was, I know him and Mahomes go back and forth a lot in that division.
Yes,
where like
because
Mahomes
he
will
does
talk
that.
shit. Yeah. And so and even on the play where he kind of dragged Drake out of bounds a little bit, I know he grabs him and kind of tried to hold him up, but I wonder too, I wasn't able to look at it again, but after Drake fell, I kind of wondered if Crosby gave him a little shove to kind of get him to go down and be like, oh no, he just fell. I don't know. And run back.
I thought so too. I was like, at first I was going to give him the benefit of the doubt, but it was like, I felt like there was a little bit at the end. Just like moral of the story, don't fuck around with Max Crosby. There are some great edge rushers where I wouldn't even feel the same way, but it's so scary. It's like Micah Parsons, just those dudes who are so large and run so fast and look like genuine predators. Like they're moving at a different pace than everybody else. I'm like getting PTSD just from watching. So yeah.
Well, on the other end here with Drake Maye, there was some good, as you said. Now, the roller coaster is not what we want. We want to get rid of the bad plays. And there was times where in this game, Drake kind of looked like he was just in game mode, in God mode, right? Where, laser focused. I'm here. I'm, like you said, stepping up into the pocket, hitting guys right on the hands. The touchdown to Pop, where he bounced back after a poor throw before when he sailed him high, and then he ends up hitting him the next play after Diggs fell on that whip route. But having said that, what are the goods? What are the positives? And what can Drake build on moving into next week in Miami? What did you see on Sunday that's like, oh, you know what? No, this isn't all bad. He actually did put some good football on tape.
So obviously the biggest thing, and we'll get into this later, but Kayshon Boutte and the chemistry that they showed.
Yeah.
We saw some of it last year, but I feel like you're starting to see the next steps of it where the productivity, like especially the dig. So on the first one where Drake kind of threw behind Kayshon a little bit against cover 2, Kayshon said that was actually Drake. Like, he didn't run all the way inside, but Drake recognized that he was about to run into coverage and then put it behind the receiver. That there was the back shoulder to Hunter Henry. It wasn't perfect. Like, it probably could have been a bit higher, so Henry didn't have to necessarily die for it. But that was still the definition of throwing your guy open because he was pretty tightly covered there. Thinking of some other ones. I'm trying to go through my notes really quick. They reloaded there. Also the second dig to dig and digs is really messing me up. The second dig to Kayshon Boutte.
I just said the 1G dig, not the 2G dig.
The 1G dig, not the 2G dig. So when Boutte ran the other 1G dig, that was another one where it looked like it was more quarters. So there was the outside guy and then the inside safety. He kind of nestled it right in between those two guys to protect his receiver. Those are the things you love to see. Also, like, he had a bunch of conversion throws late where he got hit, like smacked. One with Jared Wilson on the slant to Stephon Diggs live. I was like, oh, that's another one where he puts it on the back shoulder. I don't love it. But then I looked back and saw that Jared Wilson didn't block Tyree Wilson and Drake got knocked. So that was an impressive throw. And I just thought there were a few of those. There was a completion over the middle to Hunter Henry where he took a shot as well. So there were definitely things. At first I said impressive. There were a lot of impressive throws, and someone commented and was like, these aren't all impressive. They're like more routine. I don't think they were all routine, but I think a better way to say it is that they were encouraging, right? Like, you see how effective he is going downfield to Kayshon Boutte, which is huge. You see that he is still comfortable with Hunter Henry, even if they were a bit, back and forth. And once again, under pressure, like, because he was inconsistent, whether he was in a clean pocket or not, I don't weigh his breakdowns under pressure quite as much because I just feel like it was a general, he needed to kind of calm down and play with his rhythm and the way that he's taught. But yeah, the relationship with Kayshon Boutte, with Hunter Henry, and also his fearlessness, letting the ball go when he knew he was going to get hit late in the game, particularly. Those are the things that were impressive and that I think he can build on. Yeah,
it was fine. I think the performance, the first half, and we saw it in that drive where I just talked about it, where he locked in and he's hitting he's playing on time. He's playing within the system. He's getting the ball in space to guys, right? And then the second half comes and it kind of unravels. And that was obviously discouraging because of the way that we've seen Drake kind of bounce back from things before. Now, granted, on screen right now is the one where he bounced back perfectly from sailing pop the play before, hits him in the end zone for a touchdown. But these are the kind of things that you like to see. So I'm not, people are obviously Boston Sports Radio and the rest of the sort of media gambit here kind of trying to bury Drake Maye. And I understand it. You would want to see more from the guy coming into his second season, but it is still early. There are some things. There's a Hunter Henry play I talked about earlier on screen too. So there were some things to take away that were good. Overall, you want to see more, but live and learn, call it what it is. That's what Drake Maye did this week. Again, goes 30 of 46, 287, a touchdown, and obviously the interception. The accuracy was an issue. We'll see if I'm curious where this thing goes with Vrabel's comments today about having too much on his plate, and if the McDaniels system is too much for him this early, because people make that out to be a big deal. Like, if that's the case, he is only in his second year and he didn't play a ton of college football. Like, this is still going to be a learning curve, and that's okay as long as he's it's week one. So as long as he's learning from these types of mistakes, then I think he's going to be okay in the long run. You looked like you were going to say something before we transitioned.
Oh, no, I just wanted to throw in one more kind of more positive note on Drake Maye. One, he was not good on short passing. I will acknowledge that. He actually had the lowest completion percentage in the NFL on short throws, 61.5%, and he had the fifth fewest yards per attempt at 4.3. So as we know, it was pretty obvious, the passing game in short was not very good. Intermediate, he was much better. Now, he led the NFL with 15 attempts and 10 completions. He had the second most yards, 153. Justin Herbert was the only person who had more. Weirdly, he had the eighth lowest passer rating, though, even though he was very productive. So the efficiency, obviously, and you saw that on some of the misses, just needs to kind of tie that together more. But it's nice to at least know and see that there was downfield production. I think it was just the lack of deep success that really stood out. But at least the play action was producing something, as well as kind of that connection he has with Boutte on those back shoulder fades was pretty solid as well.
All right, that's Drake Maye. That's the ups and downs of the quarterback here in Foxborough. We're going to get through the rest of it here. 3 reasons for optimism, 3 things to improve for the Patriots heading into next week. But before we do, I got to tell you guys about our friends over at Prize Picks, because Patriots Daily, this episode and every single episode of Patriots Daily, is powered by our good friends over at Prize Picks. As you know, you and I make decisions every single day, but on Prize Picks, being right can get you paid. So don't miss out on any of the excitement this season on Prize Picks, where it's good to be right. Taylor, myself, and I think your lineup on Friday night in Brazil might have hit. I know that mine did anyways. So we're rolling here on Patriots Daily with our picks. And it's really simple to make it, obviously, as you know. Just pick more or less on two-player stat projections. And if you get those picks right, you can cash in. There is the Monday night game tonight. It is Bears versus Vikings. And as you see on screen, Caleb Williams has a discounted number for his passing yards tonight against the Vikings. It's 183.5 passing yards. Just pick more or less on that. And normally, trying to zoom in here, it's currently listed at 218.5. The discount is 183.5. So I think I'm going to go with more here. Ben Johnson, Caleb Williams, get it rolling in Chicago early and often. If you think that, or if you think it's going to go less, get in on the action today. Download the app, create an account, and use code CLNS to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. Again, that is code CLNS. You get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. Prize Picks, it's good to be right. Again, there it is on the screen, $50 instantly when you play $5. I just mentioned it, but Vikings Bears tonight, great way to get on it. Standalone game, make a lineup, 2 to 6 player projections, and watch the winnings roll in, I hope. Please play responsibly, as you know. But let's get to the optimism here. We'll start with the good and we'll end on the bad. I think that's the best way to do it because, as we do with our Patriots Daily Spin, it's ways to improve, not ways they sucked, because this is how they can get better as the games go on. But start with the good. You just mentioned him in the Drake Maye section. It's Kayshon Boutte. 6 catches, 103 yards, his second career 100-yard game. Once again, that chemistry with Drake Maye continues to look solid. Mike Vrabel was asked about Boutte today. Mentioned that he had a good spring and summer, and now into the fall, he just continues to grow, continues to impress. He trusts them. They trust him. It looks like a really good marriage for this wide receiver in this team so far, which, you know, when they originally drafted him and he had that poor rookie year, you thought that it was just another wasted draft pick to go by the wayside. But even Kayshon Boutte was asked about his growth today and kind of was like, no, people forget I was a first-round pick at one point, and I was supposed to be drafted super high and be that high pick. And he said he still views himself as a first-round pick, and it's showing now post-surgery in college. Looks rip-roaring and ready to go, and he showed it again on Sunday with the 6 catches for 103 yards. So break it down for us a little bit further, Taylor. What did you see from Kayshon? Do the Patriots have a wide receiver 1 in this guy? What did you make of him and Drake Maye and the connection they had going together on Sunday?
It's hard to say true wide receiver 1. The way
just a little spin on the end, yeah.
You know, just because I still haven't seen the deep part of his game. Obviously, we saw some flashes of it, but I'd like it to be a little bit more consistent. But I mean, first of all, he was one of the most productive receivers in the NFL in Week 1. So the Raiders played almost exclusively zone coverage. I know he mentioned they mixed in some man. There was a little bit of cover 0, but they literally played cover 1 once. Like, I think they played 5 snaps of man the entire game. Obviously, there were some plays where, like, if Kayshon Boutte was to the backside, sometimes they would man him off. That's where you would see the back shoulders. For the most part, the only snap of cover 1 was Stephon Diggs' slant conversion where Drake ended up getting hit. But so Kayshon Boutte, his 103 receiving yards all came versus zone coverages. Again, some, have an asterisk. That led the NFL in Week 1. Also, May hit him with I told you about the cover 2 hole in the quarters where that was how they exploited more split field coverages. And then you also saw like some deep stop routes where Drake Maye clearly feels very comfortable with him. He let that thing go very early and Boutte kind of trapped it. Also, this is the even more impressive part. All of Kayshon Boutte's catches came downfield. So they came on targets of at least 10 air yards. And his catches, which are 6, tied with Jackson Smith-Njigba for the most downfield catches in Week 1. That's a pretty wild statement for any receiver who's on the Patriots roster. The zone coverage thing, kind of is what it is. But it's nice to see that Kayshon Boutte, a guy who we kind of think is more of a man beater, can produce in those situations and can be some kind of downfield threat for this offense, because we didn't see a whole lot of that production from anybody else. And I think you're going to see it more with like a Hunter Henry and an Austin Hooper as the season goes on, as the playbook opens up a little bit more. Like, I don't think we saw any counter hot where Hunter could kind of sneak behind the seam, which was surprising. I got to look back. I just don't remember it on off the top of my head. But
sure,
I do think at the very least, I'd also like to see Kayshon Boutte more at Z. Because Stephon Diggs didn't do a whole lot. I think it's very obvious that Drake is more comfortable with Kayshon than most of the other receivers because of his size, because of the connection that they've developed. And in this offense, the Z is the featured player, and Kayshon Boutte can block. Now, he's not quite as slippery as you'd usually think of a Z receiver in this offense, so maybe that has something to do with it. But like Jacoby Myers was complete departure from what they usually did at that position with like a Julian Edelman type, because he wasn't really necessarily slippery, but he was physical and he was still a good route runner, and there was that element of it too. So I will be curious if Kayshon Boutte stays at X for the entire season, because I feel like it might kind of limit what he can do in this offense. And he plays both, but primarily he is their X, like Stephon Diggs, Matt Collins, and sometimes Kyle Williams working at that Z receiver spot. So I think, is the Patriots wide receiver one. I think that's pretty fair to say. And I'd like to see how his role kind of continues to develop, because he's been really impressive. And I think one of the only incompletions was a deep shot where Drake threw it out of bounds. So it wasn't even really on him.
Yeah, it's a cool career arc from him. And, we've talked about it throughout the entire offseason, but this is a guy who, again, was doghoused by Bill his first season. Going into last year was someone people had off of the roster heading into the year. And someone, even Alex Van Pelt, admitted, like, yeah, we weren't too sure on him coming into the year, but he makes the team, has a good last year. And then instead of being complacent and getting, being satisfied with it, he says he worked even harder this offseason. And again, someone who, with the additions of Matt Collins and Stephon Diggs and the drafting of Kyle Williams and the potential, what we thought could be maybe an emergence of Jalen Polk and Javon Baker, you thought Kayshon Boutte was on the outside again, but he's continued to show up. He's continued to work hard. That rapport with Drake Maye is so huge, in my opinion, on that little call it a highlight reel, but the film cut up we just played on screen. It's like the second he turns, the ball's in his breadbasket, right? Drake Maye knows exactly what he's going to do. They've gotten rep after rep after rep together, and that is so important in an offense where when you have a guy got to have it situation. There was a third and 1, 3rd and 2 in the game at one point where Drake Maye hit him across the middle as well. It's like, when you have a guy like that, it makes everything else around you in an offense so much easier. So he's going to continue to be, again, the Patriots wide receiver one, and someone who, even if Diggs emerges, even if Pop Douglas emerges, and Efton Chisholm, if and when he gets on the field, right? Like, Drake Maye's still going to have that guy that he knows he can trust and know and run the offense through. So it's definitely encouraging for a wide receiver room that hasn't been top notch at all over the last couple of years.
And I know people also mentioned like Stephon Diggs didn't play a ton.
Mm-hmm.
I would just note that like the fact that he wasn't limited in practices that we saw, I don't think that's insignificant. The fact that now in the game, right, for some reason, they're clearly trying to feature Matt Collins. Like whenever something happens, it kind of goes against what you expect a lot of the time, not all the time, as we know, but a lot of the time it kind of tells you about what's going on in practice, who's showing out, who maybe isn't doing everything. I do not know if that's the case. Maybe because this was still Stephon Diggs' first game. It could completely be a ramp-up process. I don't know. They clearly tried to make sure he was involved when he was on the field. So this isn't to poo-poo Stephon Diggs or anything like that. All I'm saying is that it's very obvious that Drake has a level of rapport with Kayshon Boutte that we haven't seen, not only just in that game, but going back throughout the summer. Even though there was something there with Pop, there was something there with Stephon Diggs, more downfield, you see that there is a level of like, oh, I will throw to Boutte even if he's well covered. Whereas like Pop is more of a guy who gets open a lot, so it's a little more comfortable. And Stephon Diggs, more in that Z role, so a lot of the throws are going to go to him just based on the play's design. But Kayshon Boutte is someone where in one-on-one matchups, it seems like he's very comfortable going there.
100%. All right, we'll move on to another reason for optimism here with this Patriots team after week one, and it is the pass rush. While Geno Smith did kind of go off, as we said in the passing game, which we'll get to a little bit later on, he was hit 5 times. He was sacked 4 times. Harold Landry, 2.5 sacks on his own. He leads the NFL in sacks after week one. Now, we'll see if a Bear or a Viking pass him tonight. But as of right now, he is the leader with 2.5 sacks. So he had a solid showing. Mike Vrabel spoke about it. You asked him about the pass rush, actually, and how they were able to doctor and design blitzes and get the numbers game right and actually get after Geno, and how they do sort of want to improve on that 4-man pass rush. But, overall, they looked good. They were able to disrupt him. kind of got things going again with the design pass rush schemes. But we got Milton Williams, we got Harold Landry, and obviously Robert Spillane was in there wreaking havoc a little bit on the rush too as well. So what did you see from these guys up front, and how can they improve it and keep going and build on what they did this week against Miami next week?
So Harold Landry, first of all, I'm just going to repeat that this was a guy that people thought didn't have it anymore. And while there will be much more difficult assignments for him to go against, like DJ Glaze isn't one of the best right tackles in the league, but still, like, you saw the juice where he's able to win on a ghost move where you pretend like you're going to stab, then you rip under. Part of it is just the speed and the threat and how quickly you get on guys. He won with a bull rush, won on a loop. There was also just a high effort play that he had. So Harold Landry, as an every down player for the Patriots, really did show out. And not just as a pass rusher, the guy also had 2 run stops. So he sets a firm edge. And it hasn't been since Matthew Judon that the Patriots had an edge defender who could play every down and be a guy who does produce for them. So that was a big positive, obviously, him leading the way. Milton Williams picking up where he left off last year for the Eagles, where he was one of the most productive pass rushing interior defenders in football against the Raiders and just among all the interior defensive linemen in week 1. He had the 3rd highest win rate, the 5th highest pass rush grade. He was 3rd with 2 hits, and his 4 pressures tied for the 9th most at the position. And he won in a ton of different ways. Like, I do have my questions about the 4-man rush. I think Harold Landry is someone who is going to be productive for you, but I don't think he's like the elite every down threat that guys are necessarily afraid of. I do think there's some scheming involved, which is fine. I think he's under a coach who knows how to use him. But Milton Williams is your guy where, like, he is going to probably dominate whoever's trying to block him. Like, he won different ways one-on-one where he's using like a cross chop, he's using power. And a lot of it is really him bull rushing and then using something off of that, which is really the fundamental thing that the Patriots want to do. So Milton Williams also, he was stout against the run. I've been vocal about kind of being worried about how he was going to be in that department. I was impressed there as well, but we'll get to the run defense in a second. Also, can't forget Robert Spillane actually currently leads all linebackers with 4 pressures. As you can see, he was very active in their like 5 and 6 man rushes. He just does a great job and has very good timing and kind of awareness of when to loop and attack the quarterback. So Milton Williams, Harold Landry, and then Robert Spillane were definite highlights in terms of pass rush. Not so much other guys. So we mentioned how we didn't really notice Keion White during the game. That's because he had 0 pressures on 18 pass rushes. Caleb on Chason flashed, but he only wound up having 2 total pressures on 23 pass rushes. And Christian Barmore doesn't seem like he's quite where he was in that 2022 form. And like, the guy didn't play in the preseason. It could be another Stephon Diggs thing where, like, hey, obviously coming off significant medical issue, maybe we take it slower with him and kind of let him ramp up, and that could be what it is. But he only had 1 pressure on 30 pass rushes. He did stand out in run defense, which we will talk about later, but there were some guys where I expected they would be more productive as pass rushers that weren't. And that's, I think, why a lot of their 4-man rushes didn't get home, because if it wasn't Milton Williams and it wasn't Harold Landry, who also Harold Landry got a lot of extra attention. Like, there were tight ends where he'd have to get around them. He got some chip help as well. But I want to see more from those guys going up against left tackles, because those are where you're going to get most of your isolated matchups and really be able to make an impact. So there were some standouts, but I'd like to see the 4-man rush be more consistent so the Patriots don't have to blitz a ton, because as we know, while the blitz was effective, and I think it's not getting talked about that they were successful, anytime you blitz, there's a chance it's going to be boom or bust. And there's a level that they need to keep down. Right. And if you're comfortable just rushing forward the way Vrabel, I think, wants to, then that's fine. And with Geno, it's a certain kind of quarterback where you can't let him sit back there. If you want to rush forward, it doesn't work. He's going to pick you apart. So they kind of had to blitz at times. But yeah, just want to see more from this 4-man rush so that they don't have to necessarily pull out all these tricky pressures where you got like Milton Williams and Christian Barmore dropping into coverage for whatever reason.
Well, it was more difficult of a matchup than I thought it would be against Geno for that reason, right? You think if you're gonna blitz and if you're gonna leave yourself a little bit vulnerable in the back end with the secondary that we thought the Patriots have, which again they'll be able to improve, and Christian Gonzalez will be there. But against these Vegas wide receivers who I didn't expect to be as good as they were yesterday, frankly, they did kind of leave themselves vulnerable when they weren't able to get to the passer. Now the 4-man front. Like you said, Geno's then able to pick these guys apart, especially when the coverage isn't there, which we'll get to a little bit later on. So Again, that's the pass rush. They got after him a little bit. We still want to see more of it, but it was impressive, especially with a guy like Harold Landry, who kind of comes in here. And you said it best this offseason. Harold Landry can still rush the passer. He showed it back in Mike Vrabel and Terrell Williams' system here. He's able to get after the passer. But sticking on the defense, our final reason for optimism here is the Patriots' run defense. Number 6 overall pick, Ashton Jeanty, someone who we talked about on this show, Taylor. Someone who could potentially be a Patriot with the 4th overall pick. We tried to talk ourselves into Jeanty at number 4 a couple times, add him to the running back mix here. Runs for just 38 yards, did have a touchdown, but ran for just 2 yards a carry against this stout Patriots run defense. And their team overall ran for just 2.3. I know Zamir White had a couple carries in there. I think Geno had a couple too that kind of upticked the average, but only 2.3 yards a carry. Patriots were very stout against the run. Unfortunately, they made Geno beat them through the air, and Geno did beat them through the air, but I digress. The run defense looks good once again. So what did you make of it? What did you see? What are the positives here? And again, why should we be optimistic about this heading into Miami next week, a team that, is notoriously able to run the football pretty well?
So this is, I think, the biggest philosophical change that we saw from the Patriots defense, where it's like, oh, they're going to be more attacking. You saw that because usually the Patriots, right, they want to build a wall. It's 2-gapping. They're not really a team that gets a whole lot of tackles behind the line of scrimmage because they're not usually trying to get behind the line of scrimmage unless, of course, they're mixing in some kind of blitz. Man, the Patriots were living in the Raiders' backfield last night. I mentioned Christian Barmore wasn't great as a pass rusher. He was dominant as a run defender. He got knocked to the ground a couple of times or kind of shoved down by double teams. But for the most part, man, they could not stop this guy. Khyiris Tonga was really effective as well. It felt like he didn't play a ton, but I think he had like one of the highest run stop rates among interior defenders. He also had 4 different Patriots defenders with 2 run stops. Tonga had a couple. Landry had 2. Marcus Jones also had 2. He had the 3rd highest run stop rate among cornerbacks yesterday, and also, or this week, obviously. And then Christian Barmore had 2 as well. It's just the fact that this isn't the kind of defense that's going to just have guys put their hands in the offensive lineman's chest and try to read. They're knifing upfield. You see blitzes, you see stunts, and the offense doesn't know where these guys are actually going to be once the ball is snapped. And when you pair that with the fact that a lot of them are just very overwhelming presences to begin with, like Milton Williams is smaller, but he gets upfield very quickly. He's got pretty good spatial awareness. There's even one play where you can see he gets moved, but then spins back into the gap and kind of just puts his hands up, and he's like, nope, I'm building a wall. You're not passing me. We kind of saw him do that in the preseason on a pass rush as well on the Alex Austin interception against Minnesota. But yeah, I was really impressed by these guys. Also, like Jalen Hawkins and Craig Woodson were really physical when they were coming up and defending the run. Alex Austin had a really nice run fill as well. Honestly, the linebackers didn't do a ton, which is weird from a Patriots defense because the linebackers are typically the ones who are designed to eat and be productive. Instead, it was the defensive line just absolutely wrecking havoc. So I was obviously, I was kind of hesitant about how the Patriots were going to be in terms of the run defense, thinking it could be kind of boom or bust. But if yesterday was any indication, like not the best offensive line, the Raiders, but and to be fair, the Dolphins, I think, did a good job of beefing up their offensive line, but also like they're not necessarily the most consistent unit either. So I think they're going to have a hard time and just have their hands full with the Patriots because like all their edge guys can set firm edges. You saw that with Caleb Chase on another area where like, no, he wasn't great as a pass rusher, but he brought value as a run defender. Keon White set some firm edges as well. So yeah, this run defense is fun to watch. And this defensive line in general, some pass rushers you'd expect to be a little bit more productive, but those guys dominated. And when all your money is in the defensive line, that's kind of got to be how it is. So some improvements to make getting after the passer, but the run defense was there. And overall, I think it's fair to be optimistic about what they can do up front. It
was good stuff. You saw it in the film that was just on screen here. If you are only listening, head over to our YouTube channel. You could check out the film that coincides with Taylor's great analysis of the game here. But you're right. You saw it right there, that build a wall mentality where you see these 4 guys kind of get in the same spot or all move together and make sure you're not getting by me. And you see it just about every play here. Add that to that pass rush. If you can get it with a 4-man, get to the quarterback with 4 men and not 5, then you're really going to start heating things up both against the pass and against the run. So good stuff from the Patriots on those 3 areas. It was obviously Kayshon Boutte, the pass rush, and the run defense. Now, unfortunately, they did lose 20-13. There were some things they can improve on. So we're going to hit those next. We have 3 things that the Patriots have room for improvement on. So we'll get to those in just a second. But first, a quick word from our friends over at Monarch. We'll be right back. Like it or not, money is everything. And oftentimes, people have no idea where their finances are. Whether it's 401ks, investment accounts, or property, a lack of awareness leaves money on the table every single day. That's where Monarch Money comes in. Feel organized and confident in your finances with Monarch Money, an all-in-one personal finance tool that brings your entire financial life together in one clean interface on your laptop or phone. And right now, just for our listeners, Monarch is offering 50% off your first year. I started using Monarch recently, and I feel like I now have complete control over my portfolio because of it. The app is super easy to use, and it's also built for people with busy lives, juggling personal life, jobs, and more. Monarch is truly the best way to get a handle on your finances. So don't let financial opportunity slip through the cracks. Use code Patriots at monarchmoney.com in your browser for half off your first year. That's 50% off your first year at monarchmoney.com with code Patriots. I got a fun little story here to coincide with Monarch before we get into the improvement, because mentioned busy lives, mentioned having things, going a million miles an hour. Taylor, you know it best. I do the podcast here. I cover the Patriots, CLNS. I also work full-time with Sports Illustrated. I also just got married this summer. I also live in an apartment. I'm also looking for houses. I'm also working on adopting a dog right now. So, so long story short, I'll say this. Patriots had that dog adoption day over the summer on the first day of training camp. My cousin actually adopted one of those dogs, was there.
Oh,
and
that's
now,
cool.
Too much crap hit the fan with at their house. Long story short, they're looking to give someone the dog. So me and Kate are trying to foster the dog. So we're in the process of that. But dog food, dog beds, dog crates, houses, rent, they all cost so much money. And sometimes you don't know where everything is. If you use Monarch Money, you can keep everything intact. It'll tell you exactly where your finances are, your 401ks, your banks, your credit cards, all that stuff. It's a great app. It's super easy to use. And use code Patriots, and you'll get half off of it for your first year. That way you know your money's going for dog food and houses and cars and all that good stuff. So Monarch Money, again, code Patriots. You get half off your first year at Monarch Money. All right, so as we know, I've said it 3 times out, the Patriots lost 20-13, and there are reasons for that, including some bad football. And the main one here was the run game. And it's one of the things that, with the extension of Stevenson, that was a couple years ago, but Gibson comes back, makes the team. They obviously draft Travion Henderson in the second round and continue to say that he would be a big part of their offense. Now, it is only week 1, but again, given the stable of backs, given the weather that was in Foxborough yesterday, given what Mike Vrabel said early on was that they're going to, for lack of a better term, he said it in different words, but we're going to be a run-first football team if we have good running backs like I did in Tennessee. They have good running backs here. They didn't rely on the run enough, at least in my opinion, for how they could have won this game. 18 attempts versus 46 pass attempts, and obviously ran for only 3.3 yards a carry and just 60 yards. So they weren't able to establish the run. They were playing from behind a little bit, which is kind of why Vrabel insinuated that that's why they relied on the pass a little bit more. But long story short, they weren't able to lean on the run, which we thought would be the strength of this offense. So why was that? What'd you see? And how can they get better on the ground next week?
I thought the biggest issue, and Vrabel said it, a lot of the reason they stopped was because it just wasn't efficient. They weren't getting anything out of the run game. And did they give up on it early? Maybe. But you also understand, I think they had 2 or 3 runs that went for positive EPA, which basically just means that it was a successful play. It's hard to continue to call plays when you're getting that. And the biggest issue I thought, and they kind of mentioned this during the game, was the post-snap movement. They were saying like, oh, yeah, the Raiders were doing things specifically to mess with our run blocking. They were basically having their defensive linemen kind of go around and knife under offensive linemen. Because the biggest issue yesterday was second-level defenders either not being blocked at all or not being blocked sufficiently and making plays on the ball carriers, or it was just the defensive lineman kind of knifing underneath interior offensive linemen, mostly guards, but there was one where Garrett Bradbury got beat as well. And then the running backs don't really have anywhere to go. Now, it also confused some blocking angles. Like there were times where Will Campbell couldn't really get to the second level, or guys couldn't climb because things had shifted and it kind of affected their path to be able to climb. So there are some things that you're hoping that they can work out once they just get more looks. Morgan Moses kind of mentioned that, where he said that a lot of it's just repetition. And the more like they see this, I do think a lot of these will be valuable because you know how people are going to attack you. And with like a Jared Wilson and a Will Campbell, you have a better idea of how to defend those things and how teams want to play you. I also was disappointed by Mike Nwenu. Not only was he one of the people who kind of lost when people crept underneath him or didn't get to the second level, but there was a pull against the Landon Roberts where and this happens. This is why Landon Roberts is in the NFL. Kind of stood Mike Nwenu up, and Ramondre Stevenson couldn't get around him. That led to a run stuff near the goal line. He also got beaten inside on a 3rd and 1. It was kind of a tough angle, but still, it basically forced Ramondre Stevenson to have to move, and then he ended up getting stuffed, and they had to go for it on 4th and 1. There was a I think this might be it actually. Yeah, this like Mac Hollins block. I don't really know what you expect him to do because a crack block is supposed to catch somebody off guard where your momentum just whams them inside. He takes a step in and then blocks. And I'm just like, I don't know how you expect him to block the edge there. So I thought that was a little funky. Maybe that had more to do with the design of the play than necessarily the player. But the Patriots tried a little bit of everything. And the problem is just things didn't work. And this didn't feel like, oh, they need more outside zone. They need more gap. It's like everything they tried. Basically, they ran into a brick wall because the running backs didn't have anywhere to go. I do also want to say, while it is unfair that Ramondre for the second opener in a row, thanks to Alex, I believe, for the stat, having negative yards before contact, I think it was negative 3 yards before contact. He also didn't force any missed tackles. And people talked about before, like, okay, he lost the weight. He wanted to get more explosive, but how's that going to affect him physically? It felt pretty straightforward. Like, if a guy is smaller, he's probably not going to be as physical. But forcing 0 missed tackles for Ramondre Stevenson, it's the first game, not hitting any panic buttons. But that's a little bit alarming because there were also times where I felt like in the past he's made something out of nothing. And I just wonder if this is a guy who already was powerful against, like, defensive backs and safeties, but not so much against like defensive linemen and sometimes linebackers. Like you don't see him hit linebackers and they go backwards. Usually he'll like try to turn forward, but really he makes them miss more than he does run through those guys. So I am a little bit concerned about the fact that Ramondre didn't really make something out of nothing the way that I've seen him in the past, but it's got to start up front. And the offensive line's got to give him some creases because we talked about the run game being one of the strengths of this team and one of the disappointing aspects of this game where there were multiple phases where you thought they would be strengths for the Patriots. You know, it's easy to be like, oh, everybody thought this team was going to suck and, you know, they were bad. Well, sure, but you also thought they were going to run well. You thought that Drake Maye was going to be more accurate than he was. You know, there were just different factors I thought that played in. So the ground game, first and foremost, was one that I think they have to fix because we can critique Drake Maye all we want. The guy dropped back 53 times. Like they put him in a horrible position in the first place. And when we talked about it last night, when you can't run, it affects your ability to call run actions and play actions and just the diversity of your offense in general. So they've got to get that fixed against the Dolphins.
Did you have, quickly before we move on to the next one, did you have any issue with the splits between the running backs, with Travion only getting 5 carries? Now, granted, Ramondre only ran it 7 times. They didn't run the ball a ton anyway, but it felt like, or the splits rather, had Stevenson. Stevenson was on the field much more than Henderson. I know it's only week 1, but would you have liked to seen Travion on the field more?
Yes. I don't understand what that was about exactly because just the role in general, we thought they were going to move around the formation, throw to him more underneath, if anything, just to get him matched up against those linebackers. I know it's a little different because they played a lot of Devin White and Jamal Adams. They were more athletic than like a Jermaine Pratt and a Landon Roberts, which kind of affected my projection there. But yeah, you got to use Travion Henderson more because he was making guys miss. Like you saw the pop behind his pads where when he's making contact. And you know that he's probably your best offensive skill player in terms of actually putting fear into defenses. So I don't know what the split was about. Definitely thought it was odd. I don't know if maybe they just felt more comfortable with Ramondre pass protection, just in terms of, you know, finding blitzes. I don't know. Like that's as much as I can think because he's been in the league. Maybe Henderson was just having some issues, even though he was consistent there this summer. But yeah, I'm throwing things at the wall because I did not expect Ramondre to be the bell cow in this fashion, even though I have said, you know, throughout this offseason that it is going to be a 1A, 1B situation. That felt more like a 1-2 situation with Travion very much the 2. So hopefully that's different in Miami.
Yeah, and we've talked about how they've kind of ran Stevenson into the ground the last couple of years, and he ends up getting hurt towards the end of the year because of it. You would think and hope that they would kind of split those up a little bit more early. Now, again, it's 1 week. We'll see if it turns into a trend. Right now, it's just the first game where they didn't really run the ball, you know, as much as we thought they would anyway. But we'll keep an eye on it. But yeah, only 5 carries for Henderson. He did have 6 catches. for 24 yards. But you mentioned the pass pro there. So let's talk about that. That's another area for improvement here. Drake Maye sacked 4 times for 29 yards. He did fumble as well. Luckily, recovered by Will Campbell there. But speaking of Will Campbell, he was okay. He did have the crucial false start toward the end of the game there. Him and Jared Wilson on the left side. Bit of a learning experience, a learning curve there. I know you have the PFF stats in terms of pressures allowed here, so I'll hand it over to you. But what did you see not only from the young guys on the left side in Campbell and Wilson, but the rest of the line that made you think that this can't happen and they need to fix this things up front? I know you mentioned 2 stunts. I believe. Oh no, you didn't ask very well about that. It was the pass. I digress. Talk about the stunts. Talk about that pass or the pass protection.
So one, credit Garrett Bradbury, 0 pressures. I have been speaking not poorly, like I'm just observing, obviously, but I have not been necessarily kind to Garrett Bradbury in my thoughts that he was an NFL starter. Wasn't perfect by any means, but got to give him his flowers. 0 pressures is 0 pressures. I'm going to start from low to high so I can kind of give it a slightly optimistic spin. Mike Nwenu allowed 3 pressures. That was 1 hit and 2 hurries. I will say, he got walked back a couple times. I didn't love that. And his hit was the one where he allowed pressure on Max Crosby when he slanted inside. So don't love to see that. My biggest concern right now, we talked about line games on the left side, which I actually thought for the most part they handled those much better. And I did see improvement, so that was encouraging. But on the right side, I think what you notice, and you've seen this in the past, is I think smart teams know that you just have to make Mike Nwenu move multiple times. Like have him, if he sets one way, force him to have to redirect and then maybe redirect one more time. Because the guy's like 325, 330 pounds. He's massive. So it's just physics. If he has to move a butt like this, if he has to keep moving, you're going to put him in tough spots versus letting him just get his hands on guys and dominate. That's one of the ones where he got walked back. So I think we're going to see more of that against this right side, especially like Morgan Moses looked way better than I expected. I'll get to him as well. But I think Mike Nwenu was someone teams may try to pick on with explosive edge rushers and try to see if they can get him kind of confused, and not even just confused, but just get him moving. Will Campbell allowed the sack. Now, I asked him yesterday if that had anything to do with Ramondre Stevenson's chip block, because I kind of gave him a little shove. The thing is, chip blocking is a very fine line, because if you do it too hard, then a good rusher just ends up inside and you just screwed your blocker because he can't, you just gave like on this. If you go too hard, you give him all the momentum. So I think Ramondre was like, there's not a lot of surface area for Kuntz. I'm going to kind of nudge, but I think Will's got it. Will Campbell got his outside arm pinned inside. That basically screwed him on the rep, and then Kuntz was able to capitalize and get to Drake Maye. Credit to Will Campbell for falling on it. And then there were also some times where Will Campbell gave up pressure to his inside, happened against Crosby. There was also a time where Jamal Adams came on a blitz, and Campbell saw it, but it took him a little bit too long to get to Adams. I think Drake got the ball out, but it still was technically a pressure. And I think there was also a twist that he didn't pick up great, where he kind of overcommitted one side and then wasn't able to recover and get back out. I want to see him be a little bit more consistent, but really for the most part, he was. So I don't want to give him too much crap for that. Will Campbell, I was overall impressed by him. And there weren't really a lot of clean losses either. Like even the one that he did, and like where he gets his arm knocked down, he still was able to recover for the most part. Morgan Moses, it says he has 5 hurries, and there were 2 hits and 5 total pressures. 2 hits, 3 hurries. I thought he had a good game. And pressures are all built differently. Like we'll see that when we talk about Jared Wilson. You can give up pressure by getting beat immediately, or you can give up pressure by winning initially, and then that guy just has to go to his secondary or even third move and then just keep working to get to the quarterback. Morgan Moses got beat clean like a couple times, but I thought overall he did a great job forcing Max Crosby to go around the arc. And after getting beat by Crosby's inside counters a couple times, he adjusted well, and it didn't really happen the rest of the game. And they left him on an island way more than I expected. A lot of our game players get the ball out fast, play action, eye candy, chips, all that stuff. They kind of trusted Morgan Moses. And for a guy who we talked about, at times he has struggled against speed. He's been kind of held out. So what are we going to see from him? I was very impressed. I was much more encouraged than I've been. So that was really cool. I thought that Morgan Moses played well, even though the numbers may not reflect that. Jared Wilson, that was tough. Only DeJuan Jones, the Browns tackle, allowed more pressures than Jared Wilson. DeJuan Jones had 7. Jared Wilson had 6 pressures allowed. And this is one where it's the quality is lower in terms of like how bad it was, because There were I think he had 3 clean losses to Adam Butler. Almost all of them, if not all of them, came in the second half. We know Butler's a good player. I'm not necessarily surprised by that. And Jared Wilson did, kind of recover enough to try to get in the way. But he was the only player that I saw getting beat clean with any level of consistency. So that's got to get cleaned up. But he also had there was at least 2 breakdowns. I think there was an outside zone fake they did where in the past you've seen it with David Andrews and Ted Karras where the center kind of peels back to block the edge. I think that Jared Wilson didn't give Will Campbell enough help on his assignment, and that kind of just let the guy get clean inside. It went down as a pressure for Campbell. I think that Jared was supposed to do a little bit more before moving on to his ultimate assignment. That led to some pressure on Drake Maye. And also, he just did not block Tyree Wilson. And you could tell because Bradbury goes left. So usually you can tell that's the zone side. You want to see Jared Wilson go left. He goes right and blocks the same guy that Bradbury does. And Tyree Wilson gets a clean hit on the completion of Stephon Diggs on that 3rd down. So you can't have that. And he's a rookie. The mental mistakes will happen. But in terms of how the offensive line looked overall, Jared Wilson was probably the worst standout in terms of pass protection. So need better from him. Hopefully we'll get it. Now he's got a whole week 1 of actual tape against NFL defenders to see what he's got to work on. But even to his credit, like there were times where he picked up blitzes really well. I think there was one that came late from Jamal Adams where he showed really good awareness to get it. So it's just about being steady for all of these rookies. So yes, now we know what he has to fix, but there were also promising flashes from literally everybody on the offensive line. The only one where I would say I am discouraged is Mike Nwonu because he had some losses that I just don't like seeing from him.
Yeah, and it's one thing when it's from a rookie at Jared Wilson who's just kind of learning the position, right? And it's another thing when it's Mike Nwonu who was paid the big bucks, has been someone who we talked about could be definitely Pro Bowl potential, if not an All-Pro, when he's at his best. And so to see that from him is discouraging, where Jared Wilson, now granted, he started the summer hot and, we were excited for him. He comes in, he starts the game, or he turned himself into a starter, thought he could potentially be center guard, what have you. He ends up winning the job outright. He'll learn, he'll grow. It's week 1, it's okay, but seeing it from Nwonu is obviously discouraging. But I'm with you on the bookends too, with guys on the tackles. Campbell was solid. He needs to obviously improve on the penalties, but it's also his first game. And Morgan Moses, for what we talked about with him this summer, the in and out of the lineup, and the old man trying to get himself ready for week 1. He got himself ready from week 1. He was good against Max Crosby. I talked about it last night on the show where it's hard during the game to watch the entire thing. So you kind of pick your spots. I'm going to watch Campbell this play. I'm going to watch the receivers here, etc. There was a handful, maybe 2 or 3. I was like, I'm going to key out on Max Crosby. And it was the couple of plays where he was solo dolo on Morgan Moses, and Moses just stuck him and took care of him. And for someone who is an aging veteran like Moses to be able to do that to one of the best pass rushers in football is awesome to have on that side of the ball. So we'll see how it goes from here, but pass protection definitely could be improved, and we'll see how they go next week against Miami. Okay, last but not least, Taylor, our final area for improvement here is the Patriots off coverage. Now, Geno Smith, I mentioned a couple times here, dice him up, 24-34, 362. Jalen Hawkins, that first drive gets dusted by Trey Tucker for the score. Gets kind of caught up. It looked like he tripped up a little bit. But then the play that we talked about last night on the show where the double move by Dante Thornton to pretty much ice, it was already iced, but it kind of iced the game, the long 3rd and 20. Mike Vrabel talked about it this morning on the radio again today. He kind of wished he played off to not allow the double move and to get himself tied up, but whatever, it happens. So how do they improve this secondary? How do they improve these coverage woes? Because again, Geno Smith's good, and he's able to do this kind of stuff. And you saw it last year in Gillette as well. He had a great game, and then this year he did what he did yesterday to allow the Raiders to win. But how do they improve this? What do they have to do in the secondary to get better? What can they improve here overall?
So first of all, they had 5 players give up receptions of at least 20 yards, and they had 9 total. That was by far the most in the NFL. I think the closest was like 7. Okay. Not good. Not good, especially not good. I'm pretty sure that was after the Bills-Ravens game where I'm sure there were a lot of explosives allowed. So not great. The longest was 38. That was Jalen Hawkins. Carlton Davis gave up one of 36. Marcus Jones, 30. Alex Austin, 23. Christian Ellis, 23. Hawkins, Carlton Davis, and Alex Austin all gave up at least 2 catches of 20 or more yards. Now, I will say, there was all this talk about the blitz. And while I understand, like there were certain aspects of the blitz packages I did not like, where I thought it looked like DeMarcus Covington getting way too cute. One of those was Jalen Hawkins' touchdown against Trey Tucker. I don't know why that was in the game plan. Why is Jalen Hawkins, a safety, covering one of the faster receivers in the NFL with no disruption? That's just like, that is literally just you playing in space. That is a bad matchup, even if he's in depth. I do not like that call. Also, to have Christian Barmore and Milton Williams, 2 of your highest paid players, dropping into coverage. And I asked Milton Williams, because sometimes what the Patriots have done in the past when they play cover 0 is they'll play what's called it's like a rain check. And this is, I think, Sabanese really at its core, but that may kind of overlap. Where basically, if the offensive line slides towards you, you pop out so that you basically waste them and you can overload somewhere else. Usually you do it with linebackers, which is why I asked Milton. I was like, were you supposed to do that, or was that designed? He said it was designed. That doesn't make any sense to me. That was way too cute. You gave up a touchdown. Burn that play. I never want to see it again. And then the blitz from Carlton Davis, where it's 3rd and 1. Maybe you think the run's going to go there, but how do you leave Jakobi Meyers wide open in the flat when there's a safety at depth? Like, those 2 things made absolutely no sense to me. Those blitz calls, scrap them, or, at least the Carlton Davis blitz when he was kind of in a condensed split, use it in a better situation, in my very humble opinion. Now, other than that, I thought there were times where the blitz wasn't necessarily the worst thing in the world, but the execution wasn't very good. So one of those was Carlton Davis. Now, he got beat twice on double moves. One was a blaze out, I think, from Trey Tucker, where you pretend like you're going to go inside on a dig and you cut outside. Those are very hard to defend, especially against fast players. So that one I didn't give him too much crap for. But the one to Dante Thornton, it just is sitting worse with me than when it did it first, because I realized, hey, he still almost contested the pass. 3rd and 18, you should be more than happy to give up the inside route. And I understand it's tough because you don't have any help there. There is a sense of urgency, and if he catches this inside and I can't catch up, he might score a touchdown. But it's even worse when you end up biting and then the guy's already behind you, So Vrabel said it. It's not just me. His own coach was saying that you need to play with integrity in your off-man coverage and force that guy to declare his route before you make any definite decisions. So I didn't really hate the blitz. I hated the way, as you can see here, Carlton Davis played the blitz. Now there was also, I'm looking at some of the other ones. Alex Austin got beat twice on deep stop routes. I didn't love that, honestly. I wish he had been a little bit more physical at the top of those routes, because both Jack Besh and Jakobi Meyers just kind of turned him around in those situations. I didn't really like seeing that. And then other than that, those are the really big ones that kind of sat the wrong way with me. And other than that, it's not technically off coverage, because off is more zone, but zone coverage as well. Like the fact that all of Jakobi Meyers' production pretty much came on play action, where he was able to get past the second level. And look, I don't really expect linebackers to do anything against play action, especially early on in the game. Maybe you get a better feel for it. I do want to see them robot be able to get under things a little bit more, get better depth, but it's tough when you've got a receiver who's already kind of like 15 yards by the time you realize it's a run fake. What pissed me off was the amount of missed tackles from Jalen Hawkins, from Christian Ellis, from Craig Woodson. The tackling had to be better, because Jakobi Meyers had probably twice as many yards as he really should have in that game, and that was a big reason that these guys wound up struggling. So also in man coverage, like press man, they were amazing. I think Gino had a passer rating like below 30 when they played man coverage. So like, it's not just that the corners are bad. It's not that. I think they've got to be more disciplined and a bit more firm when they're in their off coverage leverages, because I understand they want to play press and be physical, but sometimes you can't. Oh, there was also the Jalen Hawkins play. The only other one I want to mention where that was really tough also, because he's like the number 2, which isn't always the formation you expect the guy to go underneath. And he also kind of comes out, and it looked like it was kind of an option route. I don't think it was, but he kind of gives him the hezzy there. Hawkins could have played to his leverage better, but again, he got picked, which really made it tough. So yeah, the press coverage was very good, but the zones over the middle specifically, and then the outside corners have just got to be more competitive in those situations.
I'm reading our chat as we go to wrap this up here, and someone just comes in and says, Kyle's dumping on the defense when the O scored 3 points in the second half, as if, and Now, I'll give the guy the benefit of the doubt, but we just did the run game and we just did the pass pro right before this. So he clearly just came in, but it was a well-rounded loss. All sides of the game weren't great. Go ahead.
And wait, let me see the comment one more time. Yeah, and also, like, Mike Vrabel said it, Harold Landry said it, everybody keeps talking about the 9X plays, 9 explosive plays. No team allowed more. Like, I was trying to kind of compartmentalize how it was bad because, like, they didn't give up that many points. And the 4-man rush wasn't great. Like, I understand, especially, like, 2 years ago, where how many times would it have been easier to dump on the defense when really it's like, but they allowed 20 points, like less than 20 points. At some point, the offense has to do its job. The offense has plenty of fault as well, and we did cover that earlier. Mm-hmm. But while the defense, I think overall in terms of points was good, and really they got screwed on the touchdown that they allowed to Trey Tucker, there were also areas for improvement because you can't just go into every game allowing 9 explosive plays. The ones to Brock Bowers, I will give them that those were all very good scheme touches where one's play action up the seam. The Patriots kill people with that every week under Josh McDaniels. The other one, like I mentioned, was the Jalen Hawkins rub route. And another one, although I don't like how Marcus Jones played this was the explosive he allowed. They made it look like a screen where Jacoby Myers kind of faked inside, then went under, which is what you see from tunnels or tunnel screens rather. Brock Bowers pretends to block, then takes off upfield. Marcus Jones hit him and I think realized that something funky was happening, but got confused because he turns around and sees Brock Bowers behind him, but still looks back to the quarterback for some reason. I know he's in zone, but it's like you're the only person who can defend this because Carlton Davis had been cleared out. And then, Brock Bowers was able to make the catch towards the sideline. But still, it was well schemed because it did create confusion. But outside of Bowers, who I did think that some of that was more schemed than just like a mismatch or anything like that, they do just need to be better at coverage. Because even if it's 6, like you don't want to be allowing 6 explosive plays every week.
Right. They got to be better in a lot of areas, Taylor. That's why they lost game 1, 20-13. Against the Raiders. Patriots fall to 0-1 on the season. Those are our 3 areas for improvement: the run game, the pass protection, and the off coverage. And some optimistic stuff here too. Kayshon Boutte, 6 catches, 103 yards. Their pass rush got after Geno Smith, and they stuffed the run. Ashton Jeanty LV just 38 yards on 19 carries for 2 yards a carry. Now he did have a touchdown, but they played well at times. They played poor at times. They collapsed in the second half, and ultimately that's where the game is won and lost, and they lose and fall to 0-1. And that is our recap. We jam-packed.
We got a super chat. Did we read it?
Oh, no, actually. Let me look.
I'm trying to find it, too.
Oh.
There you go. Oh.
This is the same BS offense, not creative at all, no motion, no misdirection, nothing to make the defense think McDaniels is not it. Your thoughts quickly on that comment before we get out of here, because we do love the super chats.
Yeah, I don't think that's true because, like, the run game, we saw some zone read. We actually saw power shovel, which is something he didn't even show with Cam Newton, where I believe he handed it off to Travion Henderson, but Antonio Gibson was coming behind it. I even joked with Gibson in the locker room. I'm like, when are we going to see you get the pitch? He's like, bro, I thought I had it. So there was creativity there. The play that Travion Henderson converted on 4th down, there was motion. It's just not the kind of motion you expect in the modern league. But this just was not a game where I felt, oh, man, they got out schemed. Like, there were some definitely iffy plays, but it wasn't like years past where I'm like, what are people doing? I don't know what these routes or concepts are doing. Like, I don't get it. I'll be able to get a little bit deeper into the play calling because the first day I try to get a better feel for players more so than specifically scheme because that's like a whole different beast. It's almost impossible to watch for both. But no, I would disagree and say that there was creativity. It's just when you can't run the ball, and it's kind of like with Van Pelt. Even, we could have been critical of his play designs and everything, but it's like, well, when you have to throw out 40% of your plan, or even more, if you can't run the ball, that's like 60% of your plan at least. It's very hard to do much of anything or look creative because it's drop back, drop back, drop back. There's only so much you can do to disguise, it's 3rd and 10. There's like 3 things you can run. It doesn't matter about the motion or what have you. So they just need to do a better job of staying on schedule and making sure the playbook is open so we can see the creative plays and the fun plays, because I'm sure there were plenty that didn't even get called.
Right. We got one more super chat here before we get out of here. Someone says, congrats, Mike. I don't know if this is about me getting married, but I got married 3 months ago today. So we're in the thick of it here now in wedding season. But thanks for the super chat. The Sir Brixton Cole is the name. We'll take on any and all super chats. We'll read them all here anytime. But we do have a jam-packed night here on Patriots CLNS. This was the Patriots Daily, 3 up, 3 down at 6 p.m. Eastern time. Patriots beat coming up shortly hereafter, just over 15 minutes away with Brian and Alex. And then after that, a live Andrew Callahan, Mike Giardi, Pat's interference here on Patriots CLNS. So it is a long night here as we break down the Patriots' first loss. So if you want to keep watching, keep it right here. You got Pat's beat coming up in just about 50 minutes. But that is going to do it for myself and Taylor here on
50?
Today's show. What'd you say?
50 minutes?
15.
Oh, okay, my bad.
Just over 15 minutes. So they'll be here, but we're going to get out of here, and they're up next. So thank you guys for watching. As always, thanks for tuning into Patriots Daily. Rate, review, and subscribe, powered by our friends at Prize Picks and Monarch today. And shout out Game Time as well, one of our sponsors here at CLNS Media. Head over to Game Time, use code CLNS, and you get $20 off your first purchase. And as we saw yesterday, ticket prices were plummeting ahead of kickoff. The best place to get last-minute tickets is Game Time, so check out our friends over there as well. Taylor, thank you for joining me. Thank you for all the prep work. An hour, 10-minute show for the people, or by the people, for the people here at Patriots Daily, as always. So until next time.
Tomorrow as well?
Yeah, what do you got? Tease tomorrow. What do we got coming?
Yep. So today is where we try to do the overarching thoughts, and now we're going to do is more Tape Tuesdays. So if you're a member, we are going to be doing a Drake Maye film breakdown for you. That is going to be happening at noon. So look forward to that. And then I'm going to try, see how tomorrow works out exactly, but we're off. I should have some free time. I'm going to try to get another film breakdown out for y'all. Just got to see how the day goes. But you will have something, and I will dive deeper into Drake Maye, because obviously we kind of went over generally what happened. But I can tell you how the play went, what mistakes he made. But it is always more fun to really kind of dive in and see how was the play design, what were the wrinkles, what were the little itty-bitty things that, like, I can't put in tweets and I can't put in a show that I try very hard to keep under an hour and fail to do every time. But yeah, so look forward to that tomorrow. This is actually happening because there is nothing happening tomorrow. There is no Tuesday, nothing. So I know there's been some confusion in the past, but now we're back to a regular schedule. We will have a film breakdown.
Members tomorrow, myself and Taylor, 12 p.m., Drake Maye Tape Tuesday. Check it out here. These are the tiers: rookie, starter, all pro, GOAT status. Join on any of them and you'll get our ad-free content and our videos for you guys. So look forward to that tomorrow. Another members video after that as well. And then we'll be back to our normal schedule. Mailbag Wednesday. We'll get through the rest of the week as the Patriots welcome the Dolphins. Sorry, they don't welcome the Dolphins. They go to the Dolphins next Sunday down in Miami. So we'll be back tomorrow for members, 12 p.m. If you're not a member, join us tomorrow. And until then, thanks for watching. Take care of yourselves. Take care of each other. And we will see you tomorrow. Peace out, everyone.